And welcome back. For today's lesson, we are going to get started with doing value scale or value drawings rather. We've done value scales already where we went from all the way dark to all the way light with both pencil and colored pencil. So now we're going to take that information, we're actually going to apply it to a drawing. Now, what I want you to do is to find something that is square or rectangular, and we are going to draw it. Ideally, it's going to be something that is all of one color like this, or I just happen to have a canvas because that's what I do, but it doesn't necessarily have to be one color. If you have some blank paper or some wrapping paper, you can take that wrapping paper, turn it inside out, so that way the white side's showing, you can wrap it. Or if you have something like a tissue box here that is relatively all the same color, we can work with that too, because what we're doing is we're trying to show the differences in values. So we want to have something that's square, something that's rectangular. If it's got some rounded edges because it's plastic or something like that, that's fine, as long as it's a basic square shape. All right, so ideally what we want to do is to have a light that is going to hit one particular part of it. So if you can go by a window, or if you can use your cell phone light to shine on it to get in that particular area, that works fine. I'll enclose a photo with the lesson, so if you want to just work from that, that is okay as well. So what I'm going to do is I have this little lamp here that has a light on it that's directional, so I'm going to put this over here to the side, and I'm going to turn this on. And ideally, we want to have an area that is a little bit brighter. We have an area that is a little bit darker, and then we have so that we have a light, we have a middle value, we have a dark, and then we have a shadow that is cast onto the table. So that's what we're looking for. Okay. Now, if you have, ideally, we're using a blank piece of paper to draw this on. If you don't have a blank piece of paper, any piece of paper will work for this. So this works out here. I'm going to turn off my overhead light so we can see this a little better. Make it a little more dramatic. So we can see that we've got a very bright surface here. We've got an area, as it gets further back, it's a little bit darker. Let's see if I can move this around a little bit to change the drama here, to make it a little more defined. There we go. So we've got three shades going on. We've got a light, we got a middle, and we have a dark on top. So that changed a little bit from what I had earlier. We also have a shadow that's cast in the background here. And with this particular case, we have an area that is a little bit darker. And then we have an area here that's a little bit lighter. So I'm picking up a little bit of light from my light over here in the corner, and that's what's giving me that. And that's okay, because we're gonna have some variations in our light here. And even if we stick a second one up here, you know, that can gives this shows a little better. We got a light, we've got a dark, we've got a middle. Okay, so I'm going to use this big rectangle here. Now, what we're looking for is we want to have something like this, to where we've got our drawing that has it. What we're doing is we're drawing what we actually see. So if we look at this, we've got the three sides here, we've got the shadow that's cast, and we've got a little bit of value on the table. Because ultimately, the only area that is going to be the lightest, so pure white of the paper, is going to be the area that is in highlights, where the light is hitting it directly. Everything else is going to have a value. Even the table itself has a little bit of value to it. Okay, now, if you don't happen to not have a pencil at home, you can do this in pen like this here. If you've got a colored pencil and you want to do it with a colored pencil, we did that value scale. We know how to do it with that. I would just pick something that's not yellow or like a light tan, something that's kind of in between. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what it is that you're using, as long as it makes some marks. So we're going to get our paper down here. Now, we want the big thing with this is we want to draw what we see and how we see it. So we want to take this and we want to try to get the proportions right, and we want to get everything looking the way that it should. So we're going to take this, and I'm going to start with this corner right here. So that's a line that's going to be vertical like this. Now I'm going to draw this light, because when drawing actual objects, there isn't a line there. There's a value that comes up to that edge, and then there's a value that comes up to that edge, and that change in values is what creates that. So ultimately, what I'm doing here is I'm just using this kind of as a placeholder, so that way my values can come back to that here when I get done. So we're going to look, the bottom of this here comes up about to the halfway point. So out here somewhere, we're going to have this line kind of go up at a diagonal like this, because that kind of matches that. And then we're going to go up, and these lines are going to be parallel to each other. We're going to do that same thing. We're going to go like this. And we're looking at this over here. And from this angle, the bottom edge is above this. So it's going to, and it's real skinny. So it's going to start here, and it's going to come up like this. It's going to be real dramatic. Now, it's not even going to be that big. So this angle from where I'm seeing it is pretty dramatic like that. We don't see a whole lot of it. And then we come back in space like this. And then this angle matches up to that angle. So we're going to try and get that to be similar like this. Now, I'm looking, the table that I have this on, it ends here and it comes out across. It's over here, and this angle goes this way. And then this runs across the page like this. So my shadow comes up over here, and it runs out off the table like this. When we come from the corner, it goes up like this, and it runs off the table as well. And then I have that secondary shadow that comes in and up like this. So that's the basic layout of where everything is going to be. Now from here, it's just a matter of getting those values put down. So over here, this is going to be my brightest area. So I'm not going to really mess with that. We'll come back to it when I put some values around it. So I've got kind of a middle value in here, and it gets a little bit darker as we go back. There's some paper on here, so I'm not super concerned about that because the paper is a little wavy. So I'm just going to give it kind of a value that is appropriate for where it needs to be, because that's something that I've got wrapped up. So I'm going to start shading this, and this is where those value scales that we did come into play, because we want to kind of see, we can check and compare and make sure that those values are going to be similar. Remember, you can always make something darker, but it is difficult to make something lighter. And ideally, with this, we are just using the pencil to do the shading. Okay, we're not using our fingers to blend anything. We want to focus on trying to get the values done from the pencil itself. When we get into working with some other things, we can use blending stumps. I'll talk about that in class, but ideally we want to practice getting those values done with the pencil, because we don't want to rely on another object to do that, because you don't necessarily are always going to be able to have one of those. And using your finger to blend stuff isn't very accurate, because if I'm trying to get this line to be real precise here, and I come in with my finger to try to blend that, it's not really going to work out. All right, so we come back to this value, this shadow that's back here, and this is going to be relatively dark. It's a little bit darker right next to this, and then it comes out. So we have a shadow within a shadow, which is very possible. And depending on your objects, like when we start with the ball, or depending on your surface, you may have some light reflecting back up onto that object that you're drawing. Just depends on the surface. If your surface that you're sitting on is a little reflective, some of that light might bounce back up onto the object. This kind of depends on what the object is. Now see how I'm that line that I had there is gone. It has disappeared. I know this might be a little dark in the video, but that's kind of where we're at with this, because we want it to be, don't want those values to change too much. I'll have a photo of the finished project here at the end. So we're going to get this in here real quick. Now, the table itself is a different value than the shape that we're drawing. So, and there's a little bit of a shadow that's cast on the very bottom of that. So we're going to come in Use just the very tip of the pencil to have a little dark line that comes in like that. That kind of shows us our edge. And then the table itself is going to have a value. Now this is on our value scale. This value is going to be a 1. It might even be a half, but because it's going to be very, very light. If you're on a surface that has like some veining in it, I wouldn't worry too much about that. But we're just going to try to get that value to go right up to it. It's super light. You might not even be able to see it on the video, but we just have a little bit of value in here. Let me come up here where the shadow is. Now, it's an interesting thing with shadows is like this shadow right here starts out really crisp, and then as it goes, it kind of fades away. So we want to try to get that. So we're going to have a nice sharp edge here, and then as it comes up, it's going to fade a little bit. So we get some value in there and do that. And then up here, that shadow is kind of fuzzy, so we're going to do that. All right, so let's get the light turned back on so we can see this. And we'll get, so now we've got the object that we've got on that we're drawing, and we've got the value on the surface of the table. We've got the shadow back here. We've got the shadow over there. All right, so again, try to go through, smooth it out a little bit, you know, get your lines cleaned up, and that's it. So I will have a photo of this guy right here probably, so that way you can use this if you can't find anything that will work. So good luck and good drawing.